You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it's time once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from the Options Insider.com. I know we were on hiatus for a little bit, so you didn't get your live Vol Views fix last week. You got a best of. Hopefully that kept you in good stead while you were enjoying the final week there of not quite official summer, still goes for a while, but practical summer before everybody goes back to school and all that fun stuff. So we're back now to give you your volatility viewing fix. Of course, you know how to get it. Live via Mixlr, MIXLR, every Friday, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, or via all the other platforms, your iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, our website, our mobile app, etc. You can get those pretty much whenever you like to download your volatilities content, starting usually the next morning after the show, the next business morning, I should say, after the show recording time. So if you like it in your ear holes, fresh and proper, then join us live. Noon Central on Mixlr. And of course, however you listen, live after the facts, hit us up. Questions, comments, insights, pearls of wisdom. We do like to hear from you guys. And let's see who's joining me on the old Volatility Views panel today. Let's start off, actually, let's see. I don't know where the heck he is. Let's find out. He is the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com, by way of Carmen Line, a.k.a. the home of the VXX Jan 10 puts. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to Vol Views Show. How are you going? How's it going today?
Hey, I'm a happy camper. It's good to be here. I'm enjoying my day. And, I'm coming to you live from Chicago. And, interestingly, I'm making meatballs for dinner tonight. And sauce.
How did I know?
I don't know. It's crazy. But I got some nice It was funny. We're going over to a friend's house for dinner, and she was like, "What do you want?" And she looks at me and goes, "Tony," her husband was like, "Why don't we just have Mark come over and cook?" And she was joking, but she meant it. That old trick, the old "I'm kidding, but I'm really not." So I'll laugh if you say no, but I mean it if you say yes.
So do you do
exactly what she did.
Do you do a good approximation of an Italian chef? You're not an Italian, but you play one on TV.
I make some mean. I really do make some mean gravy. You'd be impressed.
Interesting. I would not have suspected that from you. I thought maybe Andrew, because he's got the vowel.
Andrew and I, when he comes into town, he and I sit there and cook all night. It's really fun.
Do you have the checkered tablecloths? You put the mopping over your shoulder.
Yeah. We did that for my son's first birthday. We did a big Italian meal. It was great.
An Italian festival. There we go. So,
we did.
Keeping it real out there in one of the 10 towns that shaped America. Let's go a little bit farther out. I don't know if this town shaped America. I don't know if it's even really incorporated as a town. He's out there in the wilds of New Hampshire, where we are joined by our old friend Matt Ambertson, the principal and founder over there at ORATS, a.k.a. Options Research and Technology Services, a.k.a. the cool folks who keep giving you all those awesome earnings move reports and result reports and all the stuff you get pretty much for free on our site and on his blog over there. So send him a thank you if you haven't, and maybe you register for some of the more premium stuff they have over there, because it's pretty cool stuff. Matt, welcome back to Volatility View Show. Sir, it has been too long.
It has, and yes, we do have towns. Portsmouth is a beautiful town I'm in right now in New Hampshire, and before we get started, I'd like to either lodge a request or a complaint. Elon Musk is on a podcast when he's getting marijuana cigarettes, Mark. What are you going to provide for your co-host?
And fine bourbon. So I can do without the marijuana cigarettes.
I don't know if I have all the hallucinogens of the Joe Rogan podcast.
But the bourbon would be great.
But Mark can speak to. We do have some adult beverages here in the studio.
We do.
If you ever, I did invite you. I did invite you the last time you were in town for our big crypto palooza. By the way, Matt, have you recovered from the big crypto derivatives palooza of just a? It seems like it was forever ago. It was only 2 weeks ago.
Those people there throw you for a loop, Mark. So I'm getting back to normal.
Yes.
And for the record, much like Elon Musk, I could do without the marijuana cigarettes, but I thought we'd at least offer it to us.
Well, like I said, if you come in studio, you can have all the adult beverages. That's about as mind altering as we get here on the network. We don't want to mess you too up here. We do have to do shows after all. But just ask Sebastian. He's cleaned out our studio fridge here several times.
Yes, there's a nice amount of delicious beverages in his mini fridge, and I make it a point to dig in when I'm at his office.
So the pro tip is come before Sebastian, because if you come after him, it will be empty. All right, and with the team assembled, let's dive right on into the volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where, surprise, surprise, we review some volatility. And here we are a little bit past noon central here in the markets. Kind of mixed. They kind of having a hard time figuring out where they want to go, what they want to be when they grow up here today. We saw sell-offs and we saw a little bit of rallies. NASDAQ's kind of the most volatile of the bunch. Up slightly, it was down. It was up earlier in the session as well. S&P kind of slightly off. The Dow kind of leading the charts to the downside, off about 0.5%. VIX Cash also kind of in this weird mode. It's been in rally ho mode, breaking over 15 handle. Getting about 1563 intraday, hitting as low as 1431, right about 15 handle almost exactly right now as we're kicking off our vol review. Of course, a lot of this driven by many things. The aforementioned Mr. Musk always driving volatility. Tesla off 19 handles or so, close to it, about 7% as we're speaking right now, 262. So, the heady days of approaching 420 to that. that number seems even more suspicious in retrospect now. But yeah, the heady days of approaching the 420 buyout level seem well behind us now. We're not quite 200 handles below that, but about $1.60, which is another 1 day's move in Tesla land. But also what's driving a lot of the vol out there today. And the movement is, of course, non-farms. We saw the economy adding more jobs than was expected in August. Non-farm payrolls grew by 201,000 in August. The dismal scientists out there had expected 191,000, so about a 10,000 increase. Their average hourly earnings up about 2.9%. That is above what was expected by expecting about 2.7%. So unemployment rate holding steady near what they're terming a generational low of 3.9%. So all of that being kind of thrust into the heady mix, the heady stew that is midday session here, end of the week, first week here of September. So let's kick it off. Let's give our guest pride of place. Matt, what's been catching your eye out there in the hinterlands of New Hampshire from a volatility perspective this week, sir?
So we watch the major indexes and stocks for that matter, but we look at short-term contango, which is the relationship of the front month at the money volatilities, and it's starting to get into almost worrisome mode. So it's been smooth sailing for the last month. We've had no risk on, risk off signals. So we've been cruising for a month, and now it's starting to get to a point where we're starting to get a little worried. And what we do is in our back testing, when we get to that signal that we should take the risk off, we lower our short vol positions, and we usually have a mixture that we provide for our clients of long vol, short vol. How do you pay for the tail protection? Maybe you do a short put spread or something. Now we're coming to the point where we're getting. It's not quite there yet, but it's starting to look a little bit worrisome out there, Mark, in the relationships between the at the monies. We also have a 1 day historical volatility. Most people that use close to close can't really get at the 1 day historical volatility, but we watch that pretty closely. That's been moving up. Kind of the slope of that has moved up over the last 4 days. That's one of our. That's one of the things that we look at for how much worry is out there, how much intraday movement's out there, and so just without getting way too into it, that's what we're looking at mostly right now, Mark.
And you guys, you've signed up for be an RIA now, be a money manager. So are you guys giving active, trading signals? Are you effectively puppeteering some money over there at ORATS these days with all these signals?
Yeah, we're pretty young in the RIA, so we're still not doing that. I'm trying, but we are able to talk to our clients a lot more closely about what to look for, strategies. We can now incorporate signals into our back testing and test those out. So, we're able to get a lot more detail without worrying as much now that we're registered investment advisors more.
And, just for some of maybe the layman out there, I don't want you to get too much into your secret sauce, but is there a level of contango? Is there perhaps a level of skew where, okay, that's where the worm turns, that's where you say you're starting to get worrisome. Where does it become, where is it when you start to get full on worried?
Yeah, when it flips over, when the front month goes, or, we have there's so many months now, but we do a slope of the volatilities, and we watch that quite closely, and it's been a pretty good signal. So when it starts to flip over, when you start getting the front months higher than, not the back months, but just kind of the shorter term, medium term volatility times, that's when we start to get worried. The market is quite good at sensing what's coming up and the worry out there, and that's where I think the big boys play. When they sense there's going to be a correction, they kind of act in those months because they could get the most curvature, most gamma, most bang for their buck in the options. So that's what we look at, Mark.
All right, that is where a lot of the big boys tend to play when these signals start to rear their ugly heads out there. Mr. Meatball, same question for you. What's catching your eye out there? And are you also of the same mind as Matt here that perhaps things are getting a little worrisome?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing an increase in ATR, but have you ever seen the VIX move this hard up on so little movement? I mean, I'm looking at the S&P, and where the all-time high close was, we're off 30, 40 bucks from the all-time high close over a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day period. And the VIX has gone from 11 and a half, high 11s to 1530. I don't know who's buying this vol, but there is definitely some spook out there, and we are getting some flat term structure. VVIX, the VIX of VIX, is up to 102 and a half. So there is lots of option buying and lots of VIX buying in itself, even if there's not that much movement. Early in the week, at least we could say like the NASDAQ was selling off, but now we're not even seeing that. The NASDAQ's the leader. We've got the VIX up 65 cents, and the S&P is down 9. I mean, we have not had a real outsized day, like a day where we moved 1%. When was the last time we had a day where we actually moved 1%? It wasn't yesterday. I don't know the last time we moved 1%. I'm thinking maybe, looks like we got close on the 15th. But that's it. We did not move that much yesterday, for sure. We dropped. We got close yesterday, interday, but we've not had any movement yet. There's a big bid for implied volatility.
This is the time when it would be
the wall of worry, if you will.
Yes, this is the time. It'd be handy to have Dr. VIX on, because he can usually throw out those stats pretty quick. Oh, it was 18 days ago we moved 1%, something along those lines. But you're right, it does seem like we are climbing that proverbial wall of worry on very little else going on in the broad marketplace. And you were talking for a while on our last show, which seems like forever ago now, 2 weeks ago, that that set future was remaining stubborn and there was not really much reason for it, and it seemed like it was going to come in, all other things being held equal. And it did a bit, but not quite to the perhaps extent all of us were looking for. And now here we are a couple weeks later, and we're all right back up into a tizzy in the vol space, to use a technical term. Speaking of those futures here, with the cash a little bit north of the 15 handle, we're seeing the set future about a third of a handle up, about 0.3 handles away from the cash. 2 months out there to the OCT future, about a handle. That's even a little bit with the cash whipping around like it is right now. You're seeing it's getting a little bit closer. It was about 3/4 of a handle and about 1.5 points coming into the show this morning. So it has tightened up just in a little bit here as the cash continues to whipsaw all over the place. You mentioned our old friend VVIX, Mark VVIX, once again in the lofty elevated territory. Once it gets into the triple figures there, the over 100 level, that's when people will mostly start to look at it, start paying attention, saying, stroking their beards if they have them, saying, something perhaps is afoot here. I should pay attention. And we've been in that lofty range for quite a while now, over the 102 level as we're into showtime. Was 100, so getting a little bit more elevated, which makes sense because VIX continues to move as we're doing all this. And we should be remiss if we didn't mention our old friend RVX as well. Remember, this used to be a tradable product we like. This is, of course, the Russell VIX. Small caps are indeed structurally more volatile than large caps, so always a nice premium in RVX land. And all this whipsaw in VIX Cash land has actually tightened up that premium. We've seen it. We talk about it a lot on TWIFO. We've seen it anywhere from about 1.5 up to about 3 points. That premium of Russell VIX to VIX itself. Right now, it's at about 1.25. So it's about as tight as we've seen it in some time. So unfortunately, no trading RVX, but you can go out and trade some other products. Obviously, if you want to sling some Russell vol and play that ARB between the two. Mark, I know that used to be a fun play. You used to keep an eye on a lot. You do any Russell versus S&P vol anymore over there, Carmen line?
We don't trade the Russell that much. We try. In option pit, we'll do a lot of IWM trading, but most of the time I tell people that the index is kind of the better product. So like in the S&P, right? SPX, in my opinion, and I know you're partialist because you were in the pit, but the SPX, in my opinion, is a better product to trade. With Russell, it's just not true. The markets are way wider and harder to fill in the RUT. So that's been my experience, at least.
Yeah, so also part of the reason why RVX, unfortunately, our old friend got delisted. They're talking to them. I think they're trying to bring that back in some way, shape, or form. So hopefully we get a nice little direct Russell vol play. Matt, do you get a lot of people coming to you over there at ORATS asking for analysis or back tests over there in the land of Russell volatility? Or is it like Mark for you is kind of not really on your radar too much yet?
I agree with Mark that IWM, we get a fair amount. People are trying to hedge their exposure, and often clients that have portfolios that match the IWM. They're not doing a lot of RVX questioning, but they are asking for IWM, for example, tail hedging and income producing strategies. NASDAQ, though, we do get some requests for research on the volatility. But yeah, it's funny, you don't get a lot on the Russell volatility product, Mark.
Yeah, well, hopefully that will change. We get a little bit tighter markets out there. We get RVX maybe perhaps making a resurrection from the dead. We do get a few questions about that every now and then, so hopefully that's a sign that people are out there looking to play. I know they listed it last time. There were some issues with liquidity providers. Hopefully they can get around it this time. And, more vol products, the better, usually for our audience, at least on this program here. Speaking of products, we talked about VIX futures earlier and what's been going on out there in the curve. What's been going on out there from a volume story, though, it still is not a good story. The numbers in for August from the SIBO and VIX futures specifically did a total volume of about 5.8 million contracts. That works out to an ADV of about 253,000 contracts a day. That's down 36.4% from this time last year when it was 9.1 million contracts, or nearly 400,000 contracts a day. That's a huge difference, and that continues to talk to, of course, perhaps the lingering impact of the VIX-ocalypse and the structural damage it did in many ways to the volatility space and how that's being seen in the VIX futures. Of course, it's not all bad. If you change your frame of reference a little bit, and I noticed the SIBO coyly included this in their release as well, that if you look at volume for July of this year, we're actually seeing an increase of about 25%. It was about 4.6 million contracts in July, 5.8 million contracts in August. Granted, there are about 2 more trading days in August versus July, so factor that in, but that's about 250,000 contracts a day at the current ADV, so that's about 500,000 contracts, so that's not going to make up all the gap, but still it's some of it. So it's perhaps not all dire if you look out there, depending on your frame of reference, as with all statistics. It depends on how you look at it, but still overall net for the year, things are not looking too robust out there in the VIX futures lands. Let's turn our gaze instead to our old friend, the big VIX mothership options. And usually on a non-farm day, we'd see a lot of slinging, a lot of lighting up the tape out there. And today, it's all right. It's not a rock'em sock'em robots non-farms day like it used to be. ADV hovering right around 459,000 contracts out there right now. We're seeing about 270,000 on the tape right now, about $1.54 on the calls, and about $1.50 on the puts, about 1.3 to 1 calls over puts out there right now. So that's kind of what we're seeing. The rest of the week was kind of similar numbers: 425,000 on Thursday, 455,000 on Wednesday, 406,000 on Tuesday, and Monday we had nothing. And I want to make sure these are actually the most recent numbers. Let's go back to they are. So Monday we, of course, had naught because we were closed. There we go. And the call to put is it is exactly the same as it was 2 weeks ago, 3.3 to 1. So nothing has changed in terms of that. In terms of what's playing out there, what people are trading out there, let's see if anything's changed there as we dig into our top 10 hot VIX strikes where people are actually playing in VIX land these days. And we're gonna go backwards again. It's kind of fun to go start at number 10. You go number 1, you give you the meat of it first. We want to go back the other way. Let's start at number 10 here. The SEP 16s. Interesting strike selection. $1.30 on the tape for number 10. Number 9, the SEP 30s. Again, the 30 strike. Just just captures the imagination week after week, month after month. I don't care where VIX Cash is. I don't care where the futures are. Somebody's playing in the 30s, and chances are it's on our top 10. This week, it's the SEP 30s at number 9 with 133,000. Number 8, getting a little bit closer to home, the SEP 27s, 140,000. Number 7, the SEP 12 half puts are with 162,000 contracts on the tape. Number 6, the DEES 47 half calls. Put that one in your pipe and smoke it. 167,000 of those. Number 5, the SEP 25s with about 174,000 contracts. Number 4, our first major put on the list, the OC 13 puts, another strike people continue to like, the 13 put strike with 185,000. Number 3, though, the SEP 18 calls with 196,000. Number 2, the SEP 21s, 222,000, and taking the number 1 spot on our hot top 10 VIX strikes, VIX positions this week, the SEP 20s with 239,000 contracts. Total open interest, about 7.6 million contracts. We got 5.8 million on the calls and about 1.8 million on the puts. Mr. Meatball, anything out there? It's been an interesting week from a VIX options land. Anything catching your eye out there from a trading perspective out there in VIX options this week?
You know, what's interesting is on this run-up, we've not seen a lot of people racing to buy options. I just frankly haven't seen a lot of huge VIX buyers over the last couple of days. Most interesting thing I've seen was, you'll like this. This was today. A guy bought the Jan 2537 and a half call 1x2 for 12. He was selling the 1, buying the 2 at 12 cents. Kind of interesting.
The old 1x2.
Yeah, but he was selling the 1, which is not what you would expect. And selling the 1 in Jan, 12 and a half bucks wide. It's just kind of weird. The only trade I really did that I liked was this September 13-17 risk reversal, which was pretty good. Customer bought call, sold put, tied to futures. Actually, the most interesting trade I've seen all week took place in SPX.
Regale us, sir.
Customer has been gobbling the October 30 and a half calls. 3,050 calls. Think about that. That is like
October.
Super bullish.
You're right. That qualifies as super bullish, I think is the technical term for that one.
Yeah, if you look, it might be the October end of month. I'm looking to see, or is it the OCAM? It's the OCAMs. That's why. I love. So look at this. There are 54,000 open interest of the October regular 30 and a half calls. That is bullish.
I'm sorry, how much did you say?
54,000 open interest on the October 3,050 calls.
So
that is just
need a nice 200 point rally or so for those to come. Obviously, you don't need to break through it for them to make money, but you need a couple of hundred handles for that. That's good. And by October, it's not like he's doing it in Jan of 2020 or anything like that.
No, and I thought I was like aggressive for wanting to do the 3,000 the SEP 3000 calendar. And the answer is no. No, I was not.
You are a mere child, a babe in the woods, sir, compared to our Super Bull friend. You mentioned risk reversals. There are a few other, hitting the tape today. Another looks like a risk reversal. Some of the bigger trades today seem to be in that camp. 10,000, a lot of the SEP 14, 15 risk reversal. Looks like they sold put buck call, but again, you never know with these executions. Some of these ones going up there 10,000 times. Also saw some straight up put love going up on the tape today. SEP 13 puts. That 13 strike, I kind of joke about the 30 strike on the calls. It feels like the 13 strike is the put strike du jour. Everybody's got to have it, whether it's an OC or SEP or wherever it is. 24,000 of those going up for 15 cents today out here as well. Also saw someone rolling their upside, seems like about 8,000 times. SEP 20s going out to the OC 24s. So getting a little bit more time, a little bit more upside doing that. Feels like for about 35 cents, 8,000 times. Matt, you guys out there in your various back tests and analyses you're doing over there on ORATS, catching any interesting VIX options activity rolling across your tape, sir?
Yeah, first of all, the long VIX call is not the play in our back test, but I caught something yesterday. I'm hoping it's not deceiving me, but the biggest trade that I saw on the calls yesterday was the NOV 55. The traded 35,000 times. Those went out at about a quarter. So the NOV 55. Think about that one, Mark. So. But, we back tested those and those are a little bit better, but, it's tough to buy a call in the VIX, but that's all I'm seeing, Mark.
Yeah, no doubles. Looking at those right now, they have about 38,000 contracts open on that strike right now.
Yeah, so, that was yesterday.
That also qualifies as extreme vol bullishness, which, of course, is probably not bullish for the broad market as a whole. But it's been a while since we've seen size paper really pouring into some of these, these multi-digit. We have the D's 47.5. That's about as high as we get. That pops up in our top 10 week after week. But outside of that, we had no doubles is an interesting one. Usually it's February or April where we get kind of the crazies. I like to joke and we'll load up on 70 calls and everything else like that. Maybe we're getting a little bit of that now in this season. Maybe someone picking midterms to be rocking and rolling times. I know that it seems like it's kicking off here in Chicago. We got Obama starting to make some politically tinged speeches here in the area, so it's probably going to kick off a turbulent midterm season. Let's not get political. Let's just keep it on the old volatility front. Let's keep also looking to another product you guys like to sling out there once or twice. This is our old friend VXX. We've talked many times. It's been a subject of polls out here for you guys and others. Is it when's it going to break the 30 handle? Well, it did it multiple times. Now it's back north of the 30 handle. Broke the 30 handle the other direction, right around 31 right now, which makes it about 2.5 handles higher than where it was 2 weeks ago, the last time we all gathered together here on the show. So again, reflecting that perhaps newfound life, newfound vigor, or maybe it's just a blip. We'll get to your thoughts on that in a little bit here going on in the vol space. ADV right now out there in VXX at about 232,000 contracts out there. And in terms of what's lighting it up, we got 225,000 contracts hit the tape yesterday, 146,000 on Wednesday, Tuesday, 208,000, a whopping 0 on Monday, because we were all closed. Mr. Leepo, I'm going to go out on a limb. I know it's been a couple of weeks, so maybe your memory is a little bit hazy, but I'm going to go out on a limb and let you have first stab at what you think is the number one options position in VXX right now. Have at it, sir. You're doing a good Andrew impersonation this show, sir, of just muting yourself vigorously, which I appreciate.
You're doing the Jan 10 puts,
yes.
Correct?
Yes, you are correct. They are. You say it like there's a question.
Yeah.
It is indeed the Jan 10 puts in all things VXX. Actually, Matt, you kind of have an interesting question over here as well. Perhaps I could regale it for you, but maybe I'll let you ask our co-host instead, sir.
Yeah, I look at VXX I'm not the expert that Mark is over there, so I'm looking forward to his answer on, we measure volatility, intraday volatility, and it's so much lower in the VXX, and I wonder what the structural reasons are for why the VXX statistical volatility is so much lower than the VIX. So I don't.
Well, because the difference being is that VXX is, really want to compare it to kind of a futures pricing, and it tries to track a future with a concentration of 30 days. So its statistical volatility should be basically the same less carrying cost of kind of a portfolio of VIX futures. So therefore, it moves a lot less than the VIX itself because it's a future. The other piece is that because of its kind of rolling and because of kind of contango, the existence of contango actually does have a muting effect on its movement itself. because most of the time there's a bit of a down drag on it. So when it tries to rally, there's some kind of pressure on it. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So let me just because that was my guess. So we got the VIX that doesn't really trade,
right?
And we got the VIX. So if I were to measure maybe the VIX, the futures on the VIX, I get closer to a VXX. But then. And then, I also thought about, all the VXX is always going down, 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 or most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's because of the contango, because they have to roll into a higher volatility. So you got that drag on it as well. Okay, that's a good. Yeah, see, that's why I'm happy to be on the show, Mark.
That's why you come on Vol Views, sir.
Old bag like me could learn something.
Come on Vol Views.
So you're not a real old bag. You're just a medium old bag.
No, I used to trade in the pit with Andrew. We
oh,
yeah, that is
sorry.
So, that is
sorry about that.
Did you have the clay tablets you had to scratch your trades on? Took 20 minutes to get the trade processed because you had to carve it in by hand with a chisel. Ride the dinosaur to the pit.
I did get Andrew to laugh when I was regaling that we used to draw the male anatomy on his back of his jacket. So he liked that.
That sounds like a kind of thing someone would do.
A funny joke to play on Andrew is to, if he's looking for something, place it on the side of him that has the blind eye, and see how long it takes him to figure out where it is.
Yes, I'm sure he appreciates that endlessly over there. Next time I see him in the studio, I'll have to place his beer slightly outside of his periphery and see what happens. Looking at what else is lighting it up out here in VXX land this week, our top 10. The top is most of the same stuff we said before, that kind of strip of Jan puts. You get a little bit interesting as you get a little bit farther down. Get down number 4, SEP 28 puts, so near-term puts. 42,000 of those still open out there. And September, actually, these are expiring today. The SEP 7th, 24 puts. These, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, not so much. He's got time, got a few hours left, but probably going out without some love. This Jan 50 calls, number 6 here. About 40,000 of those open out there as well. And then we get some more puts. SEP 26 puts, 38,000 of those. So a lot of near term. For all the Jan we talk about here, there's a lot of people playing very near term. Jan 18 puts, 34,000 of those. And then SEP 60 calls, 37,000. So it is a lot of puts, but it's not all puts all the time. There are some calls playing out there. And Jan 50s, SEP 60s, all kinds of interesting stuff out there in VXX land. Total of about 2.7 million contracts outstanding out there, about 1.3 on the calls and about 1.4 million the puts. Looking at some interesting trades out there today. Not a ton going up. If you want to talk calls, the big trade today is SEP 85s. Yes, I said that right. 85s going up 8,000 times for a whopping 6 cents. Let me just go down here really quick, see what the OI is on there. I'm going to hope those are closing, but you never know. Well, SEP 85s. No, those are opening. There's only 1,400 contracts. So, Mr. Meatball, while you're loading up on VXX Jam puts, any SEP 85 calls making their way? It's a little bit more expensive.
I don't have the 85 calls, but if you think my Jan 10 puts are out on a limb, how about this guy in the weeklies, the VXX weeklies? Customer bought 25,000 of the SEP expiring next Friday, 25 puts for a penny. There's a nice shot in the dark.
Yeah, so you can buy Jan 10s for a penny, all you want, or the SEP 25s for a penny, all you could want as well.
17,547 went off in one clip. Pretty impressive.
So maybe he's listening to the show and we inspired him, but maybe just a little bit too aggressively. And he decided, why wait for Jam when I could have it now? So yeah. Now it looks like 26,000 on the tape as we speak.
You gotta love that, right?
So listeners, let us know what you think. Jan 10 puts or SEP, that should be a flash poll. We could put that up. Jan 10 puts or SEP 25 puts going out next week. Which would you rather have for a penny? Let's keep on moving though. Matt, so let's get into earnings, Vol. I know we're kind of winding down the tail end of earnings season, but Matt, you guys over there at ORATS have kind of become, thanks in part to our prompting, you've kind of become the de facto keepers of earnings volatility over there. You have all the analysis. You guys run all the reports. So you guys are the place to go when you're talking earnings volatility, both pre and post move. We've got your latest report up on the website now for September 7th. It's got a bunch of names. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So still got 7 names popping off in there. So people think earnings season is behind us. Anything, Matt, you've been cranking these out all season now. Any really big surprises that really kind of stand out for you that you guys have been cranking, like, wow, I didn't see that one coming? And then also, if there's anything on the report for this week that you think is worthy of note, have at it, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And of course, I have to give you credit for prompting us to put this report together.
A gentle nudge.
Yes. No, I looked at Marvel today. It's trading 3 times its average option volume, and it came out with earnings yesterday after the bell, and it was a thud. We expected a move of $1.20. We initially got $1.06, but now it's just coming down, and so it looks like it's going to be a very small move. So the sellers would have made it a good amount in that. About this time every quarter, we come out with our summary. So we say, how did we do? We make some picks and stuff, and we look at all the moves versus how much the market expected. And this quarter is almost the exact same as the rest of the quarters. You make money 60% of the time selling, and you make money 40% of the time buying straddles around earnings. So straddles are slightly overvalued, which wouldn't come as much of a surprise. We also look at the indicators to look at if you're punting out there. So we publish things like, what have the past actual moves been in a stock? What have the expected moves been in a stock? So the actual moves, how much it moved after the announcement. The expected moves are from the options prices. Those are good to look at, both of those, and also the past year moves. The worst one to look at is the same quarter moves. The guys that get cute with it are saying, well, we're in the third quarter now. How has it moved over the last 5 years in the third quarter? Well, that is not a very good indicator, we found. And then we kind of massage things and come up with our own signals. It's hard to find profitability on the buy side, but we're doing okay on the sell side. So you have to figure out how to watch your risk, and which is basically trade small and do a lot of those. So that's what that's what we're looking at now, Mark. Just we're kind of going back over all the earnings. We track about 1,000 stocks that meet our filters, and of course, this is available to our subscribers. And it's a wall of data, but it's an interesting wall of data, Mark.
It is very interesting. I'm looking forward to that kind of summary report as well, because I kind of been following along with the move reports and the results reports lately, and it has been kind of interesting. If you guys want to check it out for yourself, of course, you can get kind of the summaries over there on our website. If you want the full thing, head on over to orats.com. That's ORATS.com. And click on, you can either try the back tester or you can try the premium. I know you have the reports as well. Where should they go on the website, Matt, to get the earnings move of the premium reports?
Well, you could see an awful lot on the Option Insider, or you just go to contact us and we'll send you some mostly free stuff on that.
There you go. See, the free love keeps on giving over there. Hit them up on ORATS, but you do get a lot of it on our site too. So yeah, they're cranking a lot of numbers. You guys have been asking us for so long, is there any good straddle data? And it does break down still kind of the way it always has, 60% to the sellers, 40% to the buyers. But then we say that with caveats because, of course, when the sellers miss, it misses so huge, it's going to wipe out everything else. So that's why we've always said it still is kind of a crapshoot. If you're doing this, so you're probably better off avoiding it, but you guys insist on diving into the breach, so we thought we'd at least arm you with a little bit of data. Really quickly, since we're talking earnings moves, Matt, before we get off this really quick, I haven't had a chance to talk to you in a while. Last time I talked to you, of course, was our big crypto session, and of course, one of the big stories coming out recently, and you guys had an earnings move report on this one as well, was of course NVIDIA a few weeks ago. They were pricing in around 6%, about a $16.50 straddle, I believe, and then they missed predominantly on the kind of weakness of their sector aimed at crypto. The video cards aimed at that audience. They were expecting 100 million in revenue. They made about 18, and not even going to model that segment going forward. So a lot of crypto bears were coming out saying, "Oh, see, I told you so. The bloom is off the rose. This is all a bubble." A, what are your thoughts on that particular earnings, Matt? And B, are you thinking this is the canary in the coal mine, or is this just noise?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions in there, but yeah, NVIDIA came out. We were expecting, the market in the past was expecting $20 move, and the current market was about a $16 move, and they went down $12.60, at least when we took the snapshot of it. So you still made some money selling there. 1.2% under expectations it was. And let me just mention one other thing. Another thing that we publish is the X earnings, or what we expect the implied volatility to fall to afterwards. Some of my clients have talked to me about, that they're doing well. You don't necessarily have to play the earnings move, but you could play where the vol is directly after the announcement, and because it's often not where it's going to end up. So we do quite a bit of work on, hey, what is the, take out the earnings move, and then where should it be? And so we've had some pretty good success with, looking at the X earnings historical volatility, especially recently, like over the last 5 days before the earnings, and then you could find some outliers, meaning where it's going to move more or less than where the earning or the volatility has fallen to after the earnings announcement. So I just wanted to mention that, and we do some work around that, and it's an often overlooked strategy, but an interesting strategy. Now back to your other question on the cryptos. Yes, we had a great talk, and I've been involved with cryptos. I was introduced to it in 2010. It was a sad story that I told the audience there about not buying more, basically. But NVIDIA is certainly hurting from the fall off, especially in the price of Bitcoin. As the price goes up, you're going to have more miners. More miners are going to need to calculate more in order to mine the Bitcoin, and they're often looking for stronger and stronger computers. It was a funny story that I think you told, Mark, about the show that was on TV when the price of Bitcoin goes below the mineable levels. There was a sound of hard rock.
Silicon Valley, yes, that was great. They played death metal, Swedish death metal, whenever it crossed that threshold. So it was pretty funny, and it was so volatile, and it became so pervasive, in the public consciousness, that it was a joke for an episode. That shows how widespread the belief is that Bitcoin is the most volatile thing on the planet.
And NVIDIA is feeling that. I think. I mean that they're feeling the fact that it's not. The price of Bitcoin is not high enough to entice more people to come in and mine Bitcoin. I do have a Bitcoin. We're putting out research now in hopes of Bitcoin options trading, but we are putting our intraday volatilities and our close-to-close volatilities on many of the cryptos out there, and I have Bitcoin here. What's interesting to me is the difference between the intraday moves and the close-to-close moves. So the close-to-close are much lower in Bitcoin, and most likely because it's open quite a bit, and you're able to just do more kind of intraday scalping. But Bitcoin is, if you look at some of the very small trading venues, the implied volatility is maybe around 85, or at least it was when we saw it at the show. We thought that was high, and it's come down to about the mid 70s. And the mid 70s is kind of what we're seeing from an intraday volatility. Close to close is about mid 60s. So, that volatility isn't a crazy volatility. There are plenty of stocks out there that are around those levels. So, anyway, so Bitcoin is, and the volatility of Bitcoin is quite high. So you'll see it resting in the 30s and 20s sometimes when there's not much going on, and then it'll spike up, like we saw a one-day move on the 6th of 122 volatility. So, that volatility moves around a lot, and that was I think mostly because of the Goldman Sachs announcement that they're not going to have a cryptocurrency desk, or at least not for a while. And, I think that hurt the price of Bitcoin. But I don't know if you're asking about my future outlook, but I think the outlook is actually pretty good for Bitcoin and related cryptocurrencies. And I think the deep state is doing all they can to keep it down, but it's going to be difficult to keep the
deep state
keep these down. Yeah,
Big Brother's coming for crypto. But you're right. That was kind of all driven by the rumor. In fact, when I was at that conference a few weeks ago, the rumor everywhere was, Goldman's staffing up this crypto desk. Watch for that. And then, of course, now it seems like those hopes have been dashed. And now we saw, I think yesterday was a 500 handle sell-off in the futures out there on Bitcoin. I'll have to pull it up to see how we're looking today. But in general, let's see here really quickly. Bitcoin is off about 50 handles, so pretty quiet. And you're right, there is this perception out there in the broad media that Bitcoin has a volatility of 1,000. It's just moving 500 handles at a clip. It does have those days like yesterday, but otherwise, when you break it down, it's in, like Matt alluded to, it's like a volatile equity, the 60s to 70s most of the time, which is not astronomical, certainly something you can wrap your head around. Speaking of wrapping our heads around, let's see if we can wrap our heads around, maybe we'll do, because we're kind of coming up against it here, maybe we'll do a bit of a combo crystal ball / mail blocks. We got a lot to get to there.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the crystal ball / a little bit of mail. We're actually going to probably get a poll in here before we wrap it up, too, as well. But this is, of course, where we try to predict where vol's going to be this time next week. So right around 1 p.m. Central at the end of the show here. And, of course, last week we were off. So we prognosticated for the showtime, but we were not on to see who was right. So we went back and looked. And Mark, I don't know if you have an intraday chart of VIX from last Friday. If you want to pull up 1 p.m. Central, that'd be handy. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter. The results are pretty much the same. We had VIX Cash closing out around 1286 last Friday. Got as low intraday as 1282. So all of us were kind of talking on the show how we thought that SEP future was going to come in. Or we're going to see VIX kind of move commensurately. So we were all on the downside. I was the most downside. I was 1155. The meatball doing the extra legwork of keeping his exact same guess as he did the week before. That's how much effort he put into it. But looks out, even a blind squirrel can find a nut. And he got, of course, there's really no winner when you're a handle away, as we were close to it, even at the lowest of the day at 1282, almost a handle. So not quite a win. So we'll make that more of a push with, let's say, a slight edge towards the meatball, which all kind of goes into, we have to prognosticate for this week, as well as, of course, we ask our listeners, coming into the beginning of the show, we thought we'd give you a chance to kind of play along a little bit as well. For this show, we asked you kind of a bit of a combo flash poll. We said right at the beginning of the show, VIX was threatening the 15 handle. It's north of it now. VXX was a little bit north of 30. It's about 31 now. We said, is this the return of volatility, or is it just a blip? Quite simply, where will we be at the end of next week? So a little bit different than showtime. We don't want to get that specific for you. Make it a little easier. Close of Friday next week. So you think we'll be right around here? Yeah, the combo guess this time, VIX and kind of VXX. I think it'll be right around here. So VIX around a 14 handle to north of 15, and VXX around a 30. Or are we going to have a little bit lower? VIX a little bit maybe equal to or less than 13. VXX equal to or less than a 29. A lot lower. So VXX or VIX less than 12. VXX less than 28. Or you think we're going the other direction? Going to be higher. VIX is going to be north of 15, and VXX is going to be north of 30. So maybe if you want, we could do a combo prognostication, because if I have you guess this, I'm also going to have to make you guess the crystal ball as well. And I'll be generous, since none of us really knocked it out of the park last week. I'll let Matt go first, the dubious honor of going first. First off, Matt, I'll let you guess what you think is your pick for our poll. Which of these are you picking for next week? And then also, if you have a precise VIX Cash prognostication for this time, 1 p.m. next week, next Friday, have at it, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what I was talking about earlier in the show about the contango getting smaller. So I think the vol is going to go higher. I'm going to go VIX above 15 and VXX above 30. I can't really comment on your other things there, Mark, because I'm going first. So I'm just going to do that one for you.
Are you not going to make the crystal ball guess?
Not the crystal ball.
It's too much. You are an RIA now. I don't want to put you in dangerous, turbulent waters. So I will put the guess as a question mark. I'll leave that as, I think it's the first time we've had a guess, not guess, which is interesting. Perhaps setting a bad precedent for going forward. Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir. Where are you on our poll, and then where are you in the crystal ball for next week?
I'm thinking 13.
So 13 even for the crystal ball, and so you're going to be on that little bit lower, VIX equal to or lower than 13, and VXX around 29. That's where you're coming. For
20. I think 28.
28. So that would be like that would be lower, VIX around 12 and VXX around 12. That's how you put it in our pool. Obviously, there's some wiggle room because the two things have a little bit of independent movement. But we'll put you down for. We'll be charitable. Put you down for a ball. I'm being doubly charitable. I'm letting Matt not guess. All right, this time next week. Let's see, for VIX Cash, we are looking at 15 and a quarter here to round out the show, listeners. So substantially north of where we thought we'd be this time last week, and probably this time this week as well, if you had asked us 2 weeks ago. So all that a long way around to saying Matt thinks we're going to be higher on the 15 side. And Mark's feeling 13, so he's feeling lower on the VIX Cash side. I gotta say, I'm not. I can certainly see why some people are on this, but I'm not feeling this climbing the so-called wall of worry here. I think we're going to be a bit lower. I'm going to say, where was I last week? I was 11 double, not quite that low. So let's go 1375. So there we go, 13 on the downside, 1375, and then a big question mark for Matt when it comes in on the old crystal ball poll there. All right, listeners, that music unfortunately means we've come to the end of another epic weekly sojourn through the world of volatility. What a week it was. We talked VIX, we talked VXX, we talked some Tesla vol, we talked NVIDIA and crypto vol, we talked all sorts of fun stuff. Maybe some combos, some polls, all sorts of fun, good stuff. If you have questions, you have picks, make sure you vote in our poll. That's the best, easiest way to play along. And of course, if you have your own crystal ball, you want to send it in, we won't hold it against you. Maybe we'll read off some good ones on the show next week. We'll get to more questions next week too. I know we have a bit of a backlog to get to. Keep those questions coming. We do love to hear from you guys. And let's go back around the horn, starting with our guest, Mr. Matt. Matt, if people are interested in all the things we talked about today, the back testing, the earnings reports, all that cool stuff, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, you can email me directly, matt@orats.com, matt@orats.com. Let me know if you're interested in back testing. We have great data for these signals and earnings information, and now we're getting some crypto. And I'd be remiss, Mark. I'm feeling a little bullish on crypto. I think it was about a year ago when I gave you it's feeling toppy, and I think it was about 15,000. Then we could go back and look at the archives, but I'm kind of liking it now. I'm kind of liking the price, so we'll see if I'm right or wrong about 6,400 on Bitcoin.
Interesting. You're feeling it.
That's
what
I'm thinking.
So you sell that house in California for Bitcoin at these levels? You're okay with that, I guess.
Yeah, I'll do it all day.
All day long, he says. Dropping real estate for crypto. That's how deep he is into it. Speaking of it, by the way, our buddy Bill from the panel, Bill Ulivari, listening in. He chimed in on our thoughts about NVIDIA. He said, building your own Ethereum mining rig is now no longer profitable using NVIDIA or AMD cards. They're twice the cost, 50% less hashing power. So people are looking to replace them. He thinks that's the reason why NVIDIA got hurt rather than... So that there could be something to that too. I know he's knee deep in that mining scene, so he would know better than I on that. So maybe there's something to that as well. So perhaps it is not just the canary, it's pricing and a bunch of other fun things going on into the voodoo of the graphics cards market. Speaking of voodoo, Mr. Meatball likes some voodoo. He also likes some meatballs. We've been making them tonight. Mr. Meatball, if you want to check out, maybe not your meatball recipe, of course, if you want to post that, feel free. But what you got going on the webinar side, what's up, sir, at Option Pit?
Hey, this Tuesday I'm doing a rehash of Options Made Easy. It's going to be totally worth your time, and it's going to be great. And you go to optionpitmembers.com/easy123. to get yourself registered.
So you don't have to be a member to go to optionpitmembers.com. It's not members only.
It is no, it is not. We're in the process of moving that to optionpit.com. So this time next month it'll be optionpit.com/easy123. But for now it's optionpitmembers.com/easy123.
optionpitmembers.com/easy123. Go over there. You too can see how options and maybe some other stuff like VIX and VXX have done a bunch of those. Lots of things in the Made Easy series. Checking out optionpit.com. And on behalf of the Meatball and Matt, who is nicknameless, but if he keeps coming on, I'll have to come up with one for him. I don't know. Maybe the Crypto Fiend. I don't know. I can do better than that. Give me some time. And indeed myself. I want to thank all of you for downloading, streaming, subscribing, sending in such great questions, playing along with our polls, chiming in about Bitcoin mining costs, and all the other fun stuff you guys do. Keep it coming. And we'll see you back here next week for more Volatility Views.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.